Hello, everyone. I'm Frank Stanisci of CFL Talk. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate the app and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, and of course, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now joining me on CFL Talk is the one and only David Morassutti. David, how goes it, sir?
Not too bad, not too bad. It's we're getting into the thick of the sports calendar. It's funny because people always try to debate when's the best time in the sports calendar. I think April is pretty. I would say pretty elite when it
A
comes.
lot of intersecting,
Yeah, the only thing the only thing missing obviously is football.
which if The Rock has his way next year, it'll be going on.
This is true. I don't
Right?
know if you saw they may actually that was something I forgot to mention on our pre-show meeting. The XFL and their
The suit?
it's so funny because like when they unveiled that logo, I said, that's a very nice logo, very clean, fresh. And 2 seconds later, it's like how many companies, but it's always like that though when it comes to new logos being sent out. Like look at when the Raptors put out their logos and the Brooklyn Nets were just like, hi. Those kind of
It is it because well, we're gonna talk about it first, I guess. Well. Okay, well, let's save that one for later. Actually, we could end this one real quick. So is from what I understand, it's the font. Now, is it a distributable font? You know how when you do your Word documents, you get to pick a font, right? I found the Argo font, which is Rockwell, so I'm giving that away to everybody. So whenever I did anything that had to do with the Argos, I use the Argo font. I call it the Argo font. It's the Rockwell font. So it has the A with the hat on top. You
yeah.
know.
Hmm.
So this one here, does it have to? What Rapinoe's and people are talking about something about the font that he stole the font from Rapinoe's husband's company.
Yeah, that seems to be where the issue lies is that, you know, and it's funny because without this, people were kind of saying, we had no idea that Rapinoe's husband was a part of this company, right? Their partner, I should say, was a part of this company. And I'm just like, because I think it's Sue Bird and Alex Morgan. I think that's where it was going. Like it's together. It's like together, and I think it's the X. It's very strange. But we always see this when it comes to stories like this. Like they're gonna push because they might
They
get a little something, but it's
they
always
push
dependent
'cause
on
they
the
can.
likeness.
They push because they can, David. That's why
Yeah.
they do it. All right. Speaking of this kind of thing, we both noted opening day with the Toronto Blue Jays, and it goes beyond opening day, of course, but they used it very well on opening day, which is the new video screen, which is made to conform with and to appear to make way for Windows in the Windows Hotel.
Yeah, because that's always been it's always been something that they've always had to work around because those are premium seats, right? The hotel seats, and they have always wanted to find a way to make those windows work, and it's tough, right? Because they have to not only think about the windows, but they also have to think about visibility and you know the screen hasn't been improved since I think 2005 if I'm not mistaken. It was mid 2000. It was one of the. It's like now it's like the top 10 in terms of screen size in all of MLB. But yeah, I've always said that screen looked like when I first went to games, it was the coolest thing ever. Then after about 15 years, you're like, yeah, it needs a little bit of a revitalization. Um,
Well,
it
the
worked out.
Super Bowl this year was
Yeah.
the screens at the Super Bowl this year were something else. LA, that stadium is
Oh, it's that's like a palace. And even like
it needed to have 2 teams. They couldn't have afforded it for 1 team.
I know. I mean, when you think like because they're in obviously a very different position. Like I think it's them and New York are the only two that are
To share a
sharing
stadium?
stadiums. I've been to MetLife Stadium where the Jets and the Giants play. I can only say this: it fails in comparison to what they did at SoFi. What they were trying to do, and I talked to a few people because this was my first time. I talked to a few people who venture to the games that are regulars there, and I said, "It's my first time here." And they're like, "Yeah, we're a little disappointed in how this all turned out." But they were supposed to be taking the MetLife building and pretty much make that into a stadium. So the designs are very cohesive, which maybe wasn't exactly the right thing to do for a sports arena. You want it's a decent arena, don't get me wrong. But in comparison to what we're seeing now in the modern days of football stadiums, yeah, SoFi is on another level. Even as a person who is a Cowboy supporter and hopes one day to go and watch a game in Jerry World, that stadium I think is worth that the whole area, the whole development was worth 3 times more.
Um, that stadium, um, just watching it was it was just amazing to watch the game, and then every so often get a peek at the stadium, and they go around and like with the commercials, especially because they use the whole stadium as the background for those quick commercials that they do, and to realize that the the screens are two-sided. And I don't even remember how many screens are, but there had to be multiple, like 6, 7?
Oh, I couldn't even tell you. I wasn't even counting, but oh man.
Well, I'm in my mind's eye right now because that was an impression burned on my brain. So the reason we're bringing up this point, folks, is that, is there something the CFL can do? We always talk about the in-game experience in the Canadian Football League. One of the handicaps that they have, is they don't have the kind of money to spend that NFL teams have. Get it, understand it. But I just wonder, when you saw that at the Super Bowl, it's kind of, you'd think that it would be something that you would only impact you at the game, but even on TV, it had an impact. So I'm just wondering, what can the CFL do? Wondering out loud, we're talking here about what they could do to enhance the technology at a football game. I mean, when it comes to technology in football, in the Canadian Football League, it's that screen and it's basically video creations, right? Fireworks, um, cannons. Every team has their. You've got your chainsaws with the Red Blacks. You've got the beer garden at Mosaic Stadium. So you've got the horse running down the field in Calgary. You've got the stadium in BC that holds more seats than they're showing. you know, so there's stuff going on over and above the football game. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be. I wasn't trying to poke fun at the subject, but I'm just trying to point out that there are things that the CFL does. What more could they do, Dave? You wanted to talk about it. What do you see technologically? Um, what kind of enhancements do you see that the CFL could afford? Because they'd have to do it on I'll call it a reasonable budget.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing here, right? We're not talking about them doing what we're seeing NFL teams do exactly because it's just not feasible for them to do it, given the financial constraints. The investment versus return. That's what you're trying to think of, right? what we saw, and I bring up the Blue Jays, and I brought up before, is because they did two things. They changed the scoreboard, and they also changed the lights. There are now LED lights, right? You know, a lot of stadiums now they go with these LED lights because they're more customizable. When there's a touchdown in football, a lot of stadiums have the lights kind of going flashing, and it creates this ambiance and atmosphere. The Jays now they have the colored lights. So imagine if you're at I think Saskatchewan does it. Saskatchewan's
Yes,
the perfect example.
Winnipeg does too.
Yeah, two brand new stadiums that when they score touchdowns, it's a huge thing. Like you feel it, right? You know, the can I think the great thing about the like what the Argos do, they have the cannon. Some people hate the cannon. They think cannons give them the
And
like a
old
new
school fireworks.
yeah. But what the cannon does is it adds atmosphere because when they score a touchdown or they get a score, you're waiting for that cannon to go off. It's the anticipation, it's the excitement, right? Some away fans will go, "Oh, the PTSD from the cannon." And they think back to the
or,
All-Star game in
or the
Columbus,
laundry bill. For the
right?
man next to you that first game out, never been here before, cannon goes off and everything, beer, popcorn, mustard, ketchup on a hot dog, all over you. Uh, well, the point is, in all fun, in saying something like that, you're trying to create an atmosphere. You're trying to, you know, we're so accustomed, with whatever we do nowadays, flashing lights, our telephones, we used to look at a telephone. You probably don't even, you're probably too young to remember what a handheld phone looked like. Um, they've come a long way, baby. So, they're obviously something that now people are accustomed to. All the bells, the whistles, the flashing lights, the sounds, the perfect sounds too, like it's not just about sound, it's the depth of the sound and how crisp and clear it is. And that goes in hand with the visual experience, right? So yeah, TV screens. What could the CFL do? We've got, what we noticed with the again, because we watched the Blue Jay opener, they have the bands, right? So they
Yeah.
have a TV screen that is, I mean, if you're up against it, it's big. But when in the context of the big screen, and then it has the stripes along the bottom, which they can use effectively for stats and information, one-liners, if you
Yeah.
will. And so it looks it the Sky Dome looks totally different, which is the point of what we're talking about here. How can you refresh the stadiums without spending millions of dollars?
Well, and yeah, that's the thing where I believe so what I was from what I remember, the screen that used to be at Maple Leaf Square or Raptors or Jurassic Park, whatever you want to call it, was taken from there and moved to BMO. I believe that's what happened, right? Because
Oh,
Beanfield did not have a screen like that at first. That was a new addition.
oh, okay.
But here's the thing we're talking about too with a lot of these there's an event coming up in 4 years called the FIFA World Cup that Canada is trying to get
Run,
its name
be a
on,
part of. Yep.
right? Be a part of. A lot of these CFL stadiums have an opportunity to potentially piggyback off of that to get some improvements to their stadium.
That does happen all the time. I mean, the
Yes,
last time BMO got an improvement, the total existence of the Cat Stadium, I'm sorry, Tim Hortons Field, sorry, Tim Horton, exists because of the Pan American Games.
exactly, right? And so I'm of the opinion that you have to this is where you have to take advantage of opportunities like that because when people go to games, you want to make sure that the atmosphere and it's the atmosphere that draws you back, right? Crowds are pretty great at CFL games. I don't think ever go to a CFL game and not have an enthusiastic crowd. It's what else are you doing to draw in fans, right? You know, the
To raise
CFL,
the level, to raise the
yeah.
level.
Years ago, for the Thursday games, they would do a concert,
They
right?
tried that.
They
They
tried
still do,
that.
I think.
It wasn't too bad. it's just, the optics of doing it, how, they were like, I think the Argos were doing it in the South Side concourse area. It kind of made for a little bit of a mess traffic wise. They had one on the field. At I remember at some points, like that's one way to do it. I personally think it's all about in the moment in the game. You know, what's something that somebody's going to draw back and be like, "Oh, that was such a great thing that they did at the Owls game. We have to go back." Why do some people travel to certain places to go watch sporting events? It's because it's the reputation of this place is the place to be for a game. Montreal, when it comes to hockey, you see a lot of Leafs fans go and watch games with the same. Even a lot of people from Ontario go and watch the Bills game because the atmosphere of a Bills game, even though the stadium, I mean, now it's going to be a brand new stadium eventually, but the atmosphere of the game, it's second to none. That's what draws it back. Even if for years the team wasn't good, you still had the atmosphere, the aura of the event is what brought you there. And I think that's what the CFL needs to get back to in a way, because you know I think the biggest change for a lot of these teams was they got these better facilities. The Argos moving from the Dome to BMO Field. I know some people had reservations about it. I think for the most part, a lot of
One.
people liked it. Um, I would think that those people in Saskatchewan, Winnipeg really do appreciate their new stadiums, and those in Calgary are still pushing and waiting for the day where they get to see their team play in a new modern day stadium. Like that's really what it's about, right? Modernizing the experience to reach a new level of fans that you haven't been able to reach.
My thing too has been, and they're doing a better job of it, I suppose. TSN, unfortunately, not unfortunately, well, yeah, unfortunately, there's only one TV network, so there's a monolithic approach to what gets done. It isn't there isn't a competitive level like I attribute most of the success that hockey has and that football has is because of the different people that are involved, different organizations, different networks that are involved in broadcasting, and they all steal from each other. Just because an idea comes, it doesn't stay in one place. Otherwise replays would have only been on Hockey Night in Canada. Yeah, if you know what I mean, or CTV, whoever initially used it. So when it comes to sports broadcasting, it's difficult for TSN to come up with all the great ideas because basically I'm not suggesting they're staring at their belly button, but in fact, they have a singular view. So the broadcasting of the games, they have for example, the wired camera. They use it and then now they stopped using it. So, the technology in the Canadian Football League, somehow they got to figure out how to make it more attractive. I get it. The game is central and all that stuff, David, but there's got to be bells and whistles so that when you're at the game, it enhances the fun. It's like tailgating, right? Tailgating is part of the Canadian Football League. For the longest time, it wasn't acceptable at Argo games due to, city bylaws and stuff. But it is a part of the game and it does enhance the experience for the fans that go to the game before the game and, at the game. So I don't know. What do you see specifically that they could do? Like the fireworks are great. You talked about the cannon. The cannon's fantastic.
Yeah, I think I mentioned the lights. The lights are a nice little touch. I think you know
When would you use them? Would it be something that you would use like after a touchdown, a big
tou-
play?
a
What it would?
touchdown, the start of the game. I feel being at Argo games, because this is what I can draw to, because these are games I've
Yeah,
been
this is
to.
what you have experience with. Absolutely.
The start of the game does not have the buzz that I think it needs.
The
They,
pizzazz.
they have a nice video that they start with, but if there's nothing that builds up the atmosphere, right? So if on a night game where you the lights go down, And then you starting up a light show with the video, and then it gets people to understand the game is starting. The guys are coming out, the players are coming out on the field. They need to do a better job of getting people right off the hop excited about the game starting.
Well, what if, because I've given this a tiny bit of thought
Okay.
because this little brain can't think too many things at once, so it's difficult. But I gave it a shot. I thought about it, and I was thinking, like, a simple thing that TFC did, which became contagious. Now, probably other teams have done it before them, of course, but just that I noticed it with TFC doing it was the drum at the end of the game after they win.
Yep.
A simple thing like that, that is, audience participation, which is what you're talking about. Because what you're talking about when you're talking about the lights is you have a lot of stuff going on that people notice, and it triggers a little bit of an excitement gene inside them and gets them hyped up, right?
Mhm.
That's the most basic way to hype people up. It's even easier than asking people to hold up their cigarette lighters. You know what I mean? Uh, I don't know. It maybe, we all know when it comes to the Argos. We'll speak about them because you're specifically talking about. I don't know how and why they haven't incorporated the Argo chant into maybe an opening. Like you know how college games, they have music that starts the game.
Yep.
Uh, e Even Canadian, not just US, but US does it really well, where they incorporate music and they incorporate the audience, which a lot of the bands are of the college team that's playing. So they're there to enhance their side, of the game. I just wish there was something that they could do, at the Argo games that I'm sure wouldn't cost that much money, but to help get the fans excited, getting them revved up. I guess because I was part of a football group, and all the cheering that we did, I thought it helped enhance the game for people around us. It irritated some people because some people didn't want any sound at all, but most people thought it was great. It got people going.
Yeah, like the Argos chant is so iconic for that team, right? That you
I
know
wanna hear it more. It
you
should be
do.
it they should and to boot, it is a chant that was invented as kind of an insult to the team because it was originally a chant. It was basically like saying, "Oh, no, Argos.
But it's caught on,
Oh,
right?
no, Argos." And it was like the Argo bounce. And back then in the day, the Argo bounce was, "Oh, no." Now the Argo bounce is Argos, because in recent memory, they've had a lot of success at Grey Cups. When bad things happened, it was to the other team. So it has a for anybody who loves the Argos, you've got the base, if you will, who are well aware of the Argo chant, and if they could incorporate it and use it more. I mean, the fans try using it, but it's almost like people are tired of trying. It's I really think they should do something in that regard. It's that kind of thing to just boost the energy at the stadium is what you're talking about. And you're talking about doing it with lights. I'm talking doing it with sound, doing it with the fans themselves.
Yeah, no, that's the thing too, right? There's a way you want it to be somewhat organic, right?
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
you
Because then
don't
it sounds natural.
It sounds natural, and I think, yeah, the Argos chant is a big one. Like chants like that, I love going to go see at sporting events. Like the big thing is that song by the what's that song that everybody does now before a football game? Oh, Seven Nations Army is a big song.
Seven Nations Army.
Oh, oh, oh,
Oh, okay.
right? Like that's become a huge thing. And it's not just in football. A lot of sports are doing it now. And so I feel like
Here you go. Here you go. I'll put it on. See if it plays.
yep, I can hear it. Yep. Eduardo's probably gonna get mad at us if we're gonna get flagged for copyright. And this you play this song, fans in their heads think of doing that chant. You don't even need to play the lyrics. It's that rhythm, it's the melody that gets people right away. And I
Absolutely.
I think it's simple. You can steal from other sports too.
Can we agree? Can we agree as well that you don't? Mutual exclusivity suggests that we're not talking about the game is boring without this stuff. We're talking about enhancing the game. I want to make that abundantly clear. This is not about saying, oh no, it needs something because the game's not good enough. No, something to enhance the game. Like, there's great. The one thing that CFL fans do really well, and the league should and does show their appreciation. TSN as well shows them all the time on the screen. Not only do they, afford to give us in Hamilton, fantastic, Toronto, everywhere, the fans get all dressed up and then also do their chants and their cheers. We all know the Hamilton one, right? We talked about the Argo one, and then of course, the rest of the teams have theirs as well. Um, but again, we need more of that. We need somehow there needs to be an avenue of thought that helps. Uh, Basically, I think the safest route for the CFL, the cheapest way to go, because let's be realistic here. And I'm sorry if I offend anybody in the Canadian Football League, whether from the commissioner on down. I apologize for offending you, but you're going to have to wear your big boy pants. And now that they're making sure that there's at least one woman in the organization, uh, big lady pants too. You're going to have to put them on, folks, and realize constructive criticism has its value.
Yeah, right. How I don't know how you could have in this day and age a front office that doesn't include a woman in there, right? It's almost like when you're running an Italian restaurant and then you don't have an Italian input on the menu. People can understand Italian cuisine and all those things, but Italians, we know it.
It always comes down to food with
We know
David.
how to relate. Yes, it
It's
always is.
always comes down to food.
It's how we relate in life, Frank. I'm
No
sorry.
kidding. No
Well,
kidding.
you're gonna get your chance to eat your pizza tonight.
I already had it.
Oh, okay.
I already had it. We had a free one because the last week sucked.
Again. Oh, you might have to go to a different pizza place.
Not if we keep getting free pizza for the ones they screw up.
That's fair too.
Well, I mean, we're digressing now.
But that's it,
We
right?
bought a we bought a pizza last week, and it had a big bubble on 3/4, well, not 3/4, about 2/3 of the pizza. It had a big bubble, and there was no vegetables, nothing, no meat on that part of the pizza. It was an air bubble, and they didn't put any toppings on that part of the pizza. It was about a third of the pizza. So anyway, we ended up with a free one. Just advice to our friends out there who buy pizza: see if you can get a free pizza.
Yeah,
So
guys, if you don't get the
So
pizza,
food is everything here on this show.
yeah,
Food matters.
make sure you complain and get what you want out of it. That's for sure.
Yeah. Never
Uh,
put up with a bad. Oh well. Anyway,
no, for sure. And so like what we're trying to say here is not only do you want to get women to think that your league look, the CFL years ago had one of the better campaigns. It got national and
yep.
international attention. Diversity is strength. And I'm thinking diversity is strength. Okay, yeah, I can see some of that. We've had coaching hires that the NFL strictly does not believe in terms of giving minorities opportunities. But is it true? And I said to myself, I don't think
Oh,
it's fully true because I've heard women say that in ways that there were the women in coaching roles, were the women in management roles, were the women leading teams, right? The
well, at
CFL,
least they're addressing it, and
yeah,
I'm not here to. Well, you can carry on. I'm just not here to judge on whether they're doing it enough because I really don't know. Other than to what you said, if there's no presence, then obviously there's a need.
right. And I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is for people to come to me and tell me that the CFL hasn't done enough. Okay, what can the
I don't
CFL
believe that.
well, I said, okay, what can the CFL do to show you? There are women involved in the CFL for sure because I've talked to them. I've met with them, I've seen them. I think it's
It's
having
only a
them.
question of, is there enough? When's enough? When's enough? That's
When's it
all.
enough?
I don't think we're there yet.
That's first and foremost. When's it enough? But when is it? What exactly are you trying to get out of it? Do you want it to be visible? Maybe they want it to be more visible, more talked, more.
I think it's more participatory, like being a part of it, Um, y David, when it comes to stuff like this, what we've learned over history and over time is that, just like, and it's also with people of color, visible minorities, and women, same thing. When it gets to the point that you don't have to make a count, you don't notice they're not there. At the end of the day, that's always what it comes down to. If it looks like, gee, that's weird, there's none there, then that raises issues. And that's the awareness factor that the CFL has, and it's made accountable to that. Society in general makes people accountable to that. And yes, sometimes you have to wrestle organizations to the ground to get them to do what you're talking about. I get that. But I have to say, the CFL has always been at the top of the curve when it comes to race, when it comes to women, even now, because we have people that have, young women who have worked their way through the CFL and now find themselves in the NFL. It's not the other way around. There aren't women coming here from the NFL. There are women referees who are reffing in an exchange program with the Canadian Football League, which is another, if there isn't a woman out there, then, maybe there should be, and the more interest that women show in the game, football, the more I think we all expect them to be a participant. They should be able to knock on a door and be considered,
Yeah, no, I think that's
or send
important.
an email. Or send an email.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
another way too. Yeah, that's another way you can get it done too. I just think that if it's something that you're doing, make it known. Showcase it. Don't be afraid to showcase when you're doing something that you believe is deserving of recognition. I don't think you can showcase enough what you do as a league.
Absolutely. And not only that, David, when the Canadian Football League says, when they say, and because we saw this in the NFL experience, they demand that, they suggest, they demand strongly, whatever, suggest strongly, demand one woman per CFL team management, in management. Well, you might say, okay, so they're just saying that just to be politically correct, and they're just, they're saying, see, we're doing it. Well, here's the thing, folks, and reality is, when they say we're going to do this, there are going to be a few women out there that are going to say, hmm, so let's see how you're doing this. How do I know this is going to happen? This is what happened in the NFL with coaches. At some point, people are going to say, you said you're going to do this, so show us where you did it. So it unfortunately isn't a guarantee, right? But I think in the CFL's case, it will be a guarantee. There will be women there. But we've seen also, when promises like this are made, the follow through doesn't happen. So I think it will in the Canadian Football League. Maybe I'm biased in that regard, but I think they will follow through on it. The NFL has something to learn. So, workplaces everywhere need to be more accepting, not playing favorites either way, not playing favorites against a group or for a group. They should have an equal opportunity to take part in whatever it is that's going on that they would like to be a part of.
Yeah, no, I do. And look, I think if they're at the table, if they're a part of the conversation, I think you've at least made sure that you're not excluding. And I think that, you want to make sure that,
Absolutely.
they're a part of the conversation. They are given an opportunity to be a part of the solution, right? That's really all you're looking for as a league, right? Trying to figure out ways to be a part of the solution, okay, and making sure that the it's not an issue, it's not a problem, it's not. Don't give yourself attention to something that doesn't need to be brought up in a negative fashion. Make sure that you're crossing all your t's, dotting all your i's, making sure that as a league, if you're saying you're an inclusive league, make
Well,
sure that there's no disputing of that. That's pretty much where I'm going.
and everybody outside the league needs to call them out on if they don't do it and if it doesn't look like they're doing it, or just simply to say, okay, let's see how you're doing it. Listen, we inadvertently did a nice segue into our second topic. We weren't finished with the first topic because I wanted also to remind people that um, on this topic, they kind of rub up against each other because with cheerleaders with the Canadian Football League for a couple of years, cheerleaders disappeared, and then the name cheerleaders in many of the stadiums disappeared. They became cheer teams, and then they became no longer singularly female. They also included men, boys, men, girls, women, boys, men. In other words, dependent on their age. And now it's become more of a gymnastic kind of thing along with the cheerleading. Now, here's what I'm going to say, and I want to say this with right from the bottom of my heart. The I sat for years right in front of the cheerleaders at the Argo games in row 1 or 2, and I used to love joining with them, cheering for the team, and I loved the way they promoted the game. I understand. I understand there are going to be questions about A, how the girls dress, B, what exactly they're doing, all that lovely stuff. But I just want to set that stuff aside, and I don't need that as far as I'm concerned. Uh, give me, give me, comfortable clothes for them to do what they do, and as long as I can hear them with their chants, I think that's awesome, and that's what I miss and missed when I'm not down there, and when I was down there and the girls weren't there. Now that the boys have joined in and at the CFL games, I think it's awesome that the gymnastic experience enhances the whole thing, right? So, you know, hopefully they'll iron that out because I think the cheer team experience is important and it has it's a historical component to the Canadian Football League and football in general. And I know it does sometimes veer off into an area that maybe many call into question, and I don't doubt, and I don't disagree. But let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's I think one of the football experiences, the cheerleaders are cheering and the fans cheering along. I think that's something that I noticed it was missing when they were gone. So I just wanted to add that in about the
Yeah,
modernization of technology and the experience at the football game.
and I know a lot of them are getting back into it. They're doing their auditions right now. They are yeah, they're pushing towards having them back and getting back. We being back at sporting events was great, but it's great when you have all the components that make it
The experience, absolutely.
right. So I'm hoping that these you don't have to reimagine everything. You can make simple tweaks to really improve and give people reasons to come rather than give people reasons to be unhappy maybe and maybe not maybe unhappy but
Oh,
maybe left wanting more. We know look, fans can be very what's I'm gonna have to use the right
well,
word here. They're
uh,
demanding. They can be very
yes,
demanding. Expectations are high.
and because of that, the fear that companies, businesses, football teams, should have is when fans get turned off, because turning them back on, is not easy. And this is a hill that Argo fans, Argo season ticket holders, anybody who's followed the Argos closely knows for a few years there it was rough being an Argo fan, and it affected the bottom line. And the bottom line I'm referring to are the amount of people that went to the game. So we've talked about that. As far as coming from Rogers Center we talked about the improvements there. The Argos used to be there, then they weren't there, then they were their road team, all this kind of stuff. So yeah, to your point about making fans happy, you can't make them unhappy either. So those kinds of mistakes can't happen anymore, especially in Toronto.
Oh yeah, definitely. And yeah, and look, I'm not and we're not expecting a dramatic change overnight, but I think being open to the ways that you can make the to think about just make it known that you're thinking about the experience and making the enjoyment of the experience for fans your number one priority. At least lets fans know that, okay, they're hearing us. They want us to. They're making the investments in making our experience the best it can be. It
Actually,
sends
just
the right
to
message.
use a new terminology that you kids use, they have to get they have to get the game's experience and excitement trending in the right direction, and once they achieve that, which they have to, they need to keep, you know, trending in a direction that says we're even going to get more exciting. They really have to do that, and because the experience of the fans at the game is paramount. It's what they need. They need people in the stands. They've got to figure out ways to do it intelligently and honestly, cost efficiently. I keep repeating this, but to me, this is an important factor in the Canadian Football League. After 2 years of, are we going to play? Are we not going to play? Do we have season tickets to sell? Have we sold season tickets? You know, how's our budget? So after that for 2 years, maybe you could even say on going into a third, you know, they need an opportunity here to be very intelligent with how they do stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we're thinking about, we brought up the XFL not too long ago, and we brought up, that they were looking to collaborate with the CFL, and that ultimately didn't end up happening.
And
Um,
now we got gambling.
mhm,
There's a segue for you. We wanted to talk about that.
right.
I noticed that the company you work for is uh, is out front about promoting gambling. They're doing it during Hockey Night in Canada. They have a segment for it. During the Sportsnet updates. They're doing it during that as well. TSN's doing it not as much, but now gambling is becoming an integral part of sports, and the CFL has to get on the ground floor on that one. They are there with Genius, so they have at least they've got somebody who now understands gambling. Now that the word's out and the government said, okay, you can bet on anything now. So they're there now, David, and
Oh
and
yeah.
now and now it's actually happening. We've talked about gambling and how important it is to the Canadian Football League and sports in general. Um, it's all about money streams, finding
Right.
ways to make
And
money.
I've mentioned this a few times that if as a league, and if the CFL really wants people to get eyes on it, well, as somebody who's gambling, I'm going to be keeping a pretty close eye on what I'm putting my money on, right? If I'm
And
looking,
there
if
has to be an appearance of everything's up and, you know,
yeah,
up and
there's
up.
no funny business going on. Yeah.
And we're not talking about funny intentional funny business. That for sure has gotta go. But you also have to get rid of the stuff that's raises questions. You can't even allow any questions to be raised. And the first and most important one is how they determine people knowing who's injured and who's not going to play.
Right. Injuries is a big one. Somebody mentioned to me, "Oh, is would you get a potential conflict of interest because you cover the team?" And I said, "Well, I'm not getting insider information. I'm not getting the trainer telling me, I don't know if this guy's going to play tomorrow. We have him listed, but he's kind of 50-50 at this point. I don't get that information."
I suppose somebody in the media could,
Yeah, no, for
and
sure.
I would assure you that I wouldn't be one because number one, I'm not a big gambling fan. But I guess there's going to have to be some sort of policing about how the information is shared with the public, and but then the best way to not have insider information is to make sure all the information's on the outside. If it's all on the outside, there is no inside information. If
Right.
you announce who's hurt straightforward, up and down, no, shading stuff, 100% do it the way it is, then you don't have the appearance of a possibility of anything like that happening.
Here's something that I think fans should keep an eye could be aware of. Every day, CFL teams release an injury report, and they're a lot more specific now than when they've been in the past. That's not by accident.
Nope.
That's not by accident. You will know if a player is not practicing and given some reason, whether it's a personal reason, injury related, you will know about it. And I think people need to, realize that, the CFL understands that, and they're going to have, and look, there's some coaches who are old school and there's some teams who
Uh,
have that thinking of, we don't want our opponent. Nope. I think for
those
you,
days are gone.
those days are gone because everybody's going to be on
See
the
ya.
level playing field when it comes to that. You know, you have to be, you have to look big picture here. Do you want a team to know that you want your opponent to know that your quarterback is potentially dealing with a shoulder or knee problem? No, you don't necessarily want that, but it does nothing to hide it either, right? Um, and it does nothing for what if one team is disclosing the information and then another team's not? Everybody has to be on the same level ground here. There shouldn't be any exceptions. I always look back to there was a gambling issue where Manny Pacquiao was fighting in a boxing match. I believe it was against Floyd Mayweather. It might have been Floyd Mayweather, and Manny Pacquiao had an injury that he did not disclose. And I don't know if you know, boxing is probably one of the most bet on sporting events, or at least for the most part, it was. There were a lot of people who were going after gambling, going after promoters and a lot of things to say you did not disclose this, and that impacted bets, that impacted people putting money on events. There's a risk, always a risk when you're betting, but information is key, and if you're not giving out information or you're holding back information, that becomes a problem, and people will just say, you know what, I can't take that risk. I can't take the risk that nobody is if this team doesn't want to give out injury reports, or if this team decide, if I can't get the information I need, I'm going to stay away. I'm not going to put my
Absolutely.
money towards it.
Okay, let's use the last few minutes we have, and the subject matter will be Randy Ambrosie, the commissioner of the Canadian Football League. Two things that he's had to deal with, that are as the leader of this league, he has a responsibility which he hasn't shirked, even though people try suggesting that he shirked it. He didn't. First of all, the issue about the CFL and contemplating four downs. It has since come out that two teams, the Toronto Argonauts, and this is if you believe Arash Madani, the Toronto Argonauts and the Calgary Stampeders, both involved with the National Hockey League as direct as they can possibly be, voted to look into four downs, and it took 9-10 days for the commissioner to respond to an article that Arash Madani wrote because he asked and didn't get the answer he wanted. In the time that happened, there was a meeting held, put together and held, a vote on the issue. Teams had a chance to think about it, about 9-10 days before they had to vote on it. And the vote came out 2 in favor, 7 against. Randy Ambrosie, after that, called out, without uttering a name, a reporter, and basically you can go from there.
So yeah, there wasn't. So it was Three Down Nation that took Madani's words from the radio hit he did with, I think it was Derek Taylor. Was it there? It was one of the CFL radio shows. Basically, he basically said that Genius was behind the idea of, exploring the idea of moving to four downs, and they were pushing for it. Then Genius came out and says, no, we didn't. Then Randy Ambrosie obviously said that this thing became bigger because one media member made a report about it, and
An
Demidani.
inaccurate report.
Yeah, he said that he inaccurately reported that our new our new partner
Partner. Yep.
was pushing this, and then so Medani's response, as you said, was, well, two of your teams voted that they wanted to look into the idea. And so I think, and we heard about it all
Repeat
throughout the
that.
draft.
Repeat that. They wanted to look into the idea. It
Yeah, and
wasn't they're voting to do it. They were voting to look into it, to see what it would do, what good it would do.
right? There's nothing wrong, and look, they apparently they said they took a very big they looked at it. They really did discuss it. They thought about, is does it make sense? Uh, and we've heard this many times before, that there's teams that are really pushing for things to change in the CFL, and there's divide with the different
And all of
groups.
them have a different agenda. Let's be honest. They all
Yes.
have a different agenda. They all, not all, but there are a lot of different financial plans in play here. In other words, how teams are run financially. There are a lot of different ways teams are run in this league. So that's a tough way to run an organization, with one voice being the head office of the Canadian Football League, when you have 9 partners that don't exactly see how to do things exactly the same.
No, that's for sure, right? That I think that's what Randy Ambrosi is really trying to figure out right now. Is he's trying to figure out, how do I satisfy everybody? Which, I'm sorry, in it's really hard to satisfy everybody. And really, Randy Ambrosi's goal should be, what's the best thing for the league, and how can I get everybody at least on board with doing what's right for the league? That's really, I think, where I don't know if he's made that clear. That's what he wants to do, but that's what I think he should be
Well,
doing.
there's a reason why you don't know, is because the one thing that Arash Madani, the point that he made was, and unfortunately it smacks of a lot of truth, and that is that Randy Ambrosi, love him to death, isn't accessible to the media at the drop of a hat, and sometimes even at a request. So, that in itself feeds, the BS that starts flying around, because you got to give Arash Madani at least, you know, respect his opinion that maybe the commissioner should react quicker to questions that are being asked to the media. I think that's a fair complaint on Arash Madani's point.
Oh, for sure.
Um, then, of course, so the commissioner's asked as well. He's asked about, so how's the Maritime Move working football team out there? And he responded 11 out of 10. And you made it a reference to the
Spinal
11.
Tap, one of my favorite movies. Well, not one of my favorite, a very funny movie, but it I'm actually surprised, considering everything I think having that
I'm
other
not.
team,
I'm not surprised.
I think it's needed. It's definitely needed, because I hate that, the schedule, how wacky the schedule gets because of that imbalance, that odd number of teams. And always expansion is always looks good on a league. I'm just wondering, are they going about it the right way? Are they going about it the way that it should be done?
Bottom line, David, we just talked about, the World Cup coming. We just talked about, you know, CFL stadiums have been impacted directly by the Pan American Games, specifically BMO, Tim Hortons Field, Commonwealth Stadium. They are there because of things like that. Their expansion is there. So I don't want to use up all the time. I got to give you a few seconds, but I'm to make uh, this clear. I believe that the Maritime team is more than possible. If the Maritimes need a stadium locally, if Nova Scotia, Halifax, the big city there, if they need a stadium, can it accommodate the Canadian Football League while they're putting a stadium in there? Is there enough going on to justify the building of that stadium? Because as we've said on this show, and as everybody understands, we're talking 10 games a year. So the stadium ain't going to be there just because of football.
Yeah, no, it has to be with all the other sports going on, including soccer. Maybe this is Halifax's chance to maybe try to get that Halifax team from the CPL to the MLS. make Halifax a destination for bigger destination for sports. I think the stadium one will be the number one issue, as it always is with new sports teams trying to get into a place where it's not established the architecture to have sports there.
Absolutely. So, David, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it, buddy.
Always appreciate it, Frank.
I'm Candid Frank Stanisci for David Morassutti. Thank you for watching CFL Talk, airing live Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For CFL Talk, news, entertainment, and other sports programming we offer, please check out spanglishworld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody.